What I thought I'd do is have a look at this belt clutch and the Bowden cable, or Bowden cable, and how it works. And to do this, I need to take the cover off the front. You must never ever do this when the machine is running. If you get caught in the belt, you lose a finger, or you mangle your hand, or even worse. So this is, we're taking this cover off. I'm not going to run the machine. Purely for the purposes of finding out how this thing works, because there's no information on it at all in the manual. The belt clutch is a very simple thing. You can find them on go-karts, lawnmowers, all sorts of things. And basically, there are two pulleys, this one, and one inside here, a drive pulley, and the space between them. And they're driven, this belt here, goes around this pulley, and back to the drive pulley. And when the belt is slack, like this, it quite simply slips round this pulley without turning it. And when you want the drive to operate the blades, then you increase the distance between the pulleys, and that tightens up this belt so it doesn't slip round here. So this is the sort of essential sort of clutchy bit, if you like, this bit here. So I'll just operate the lever and you'll see this move forwards. So if I operate the big red lever that attach the Bowden cable, this will move forwards, and it will tighten the belt so that it grips inside this pulley. So that's the belt with the lever down, and you can see it's very, very slack, far too slack. What happens then is, when you hit something difficult, some difficult grass, the belt slips in here and the drive to the blade stops. When it's slipping in there, it usually makes a squealing sound. When that happens, the belt will get hot, and you'll have to get another because you'll ruin it. And they're quite expensive things, not to mention having to take it in to get it fitted. So if the belt starts squealing, then you've obviously got to back off and let go of the red lever and move this back so that the drive stops. So this obviously needs adjusting. Normally when you're adjusting drive belts like this on cars or similar, you see the whole belt and in the middle you want to be able to depress it about 1/4 of an inch for a short belt and 1/2 an inch for a longer belt. So if the pulleys are about 10-11 inches apart, then 1/2 an inch roughly, and if the pulleys are closer than that, then 1/4 of an inch. There are more accurate ways of doing this. You can get a sort of tension measure, if you like, from motor factors. They usually sell them, and they give you a far more accurate reading. But here you can't get to the middle of the belt, unfortunately. So how to tighten this belt up is what we need to do next. The likely reason for the belt being too slack is that given the difficult task I've just asked it to do, where the cutting blade had to be stopped and started more than would be usual, and with the machine being new, the bowline cable has probably become stretched, so it needs to be shortened, and it can be done at the handlebar end or at the other end on the left hand side of the machine. Now whilst I've got the cover off, I'll do it at the bottom end. So that's the adjustment at the top end. Just come round to the other end of the cable. So this is the cable from the big red lever, the bowline cable, and this is where the adjustment is here. So I just need to adjust this so that this is not slack. This little spanner, which is provided with the machine, is precisely for that purpose. The first thing to do is undo the locking nut. And then wind this backwards. And that will tighten this belt up. Well, that's not very good. As I turn this around, tighten up the cable, the nut in here at the back goes around as well. So I'll have to hold this in some way. You see the belt's a lot more tight now. If I release the red lever, it should become slack. So it will slip round there. So that's a belt clutch. More expensive machines have a dry plate clutch, very similar to the clutch you have on motor cars. Anyway, I'm going to put this cover on and try it. And the drive should not start until the lever is halfway down or more. So let's see if that's what happens. If you over tighten the belt, the cutting blade may continue to to operate even after you've released the red lever, which is dangerous. So just make sure that you don't over tighten it. So it's a sort of balancing act between being too tight and too slack. Well, that didn't seem too bad. It might just need taking up a little bit more, but that works very well. Once you've got the drive belt adjusted properly with a board and cable, the other thing you might have to look at, if your machine's not cutting very well, is what they call a cutting play in this little brochure here. Now, what exactly is cutting play? Well, the best way to demonstrate this is by showing it with a pair of scissors indoors. Lots of cutting machinery relies on this shearing action. This is a pair of secateurs, and you've got a sort of V here. And when I close them, the top blade slides over the bottom blade in this cutting action. And there's secateurs, shears, cylinder lawnmowers, scythe mowers, they all rely on this action. So what is this clearance play? This is a decent pair of scissors. Again, this scissor action. But they don't cut very well at all. If I try to cut this piece of paper, they don't work. And the reason they don't work is because there's too much clearance play between the blades. You can see that they're loose. But you can see there's a big gap between the blades. I've exaggerated it for the purpose of this demonstration. And that's the sort of clearance play. So to adjust this on this pair of scissors, I just need to tighten that screw up in the middle. Bring the two blades more closely together. Now, if I over tighten it, you get a lot of friction between the blades, and therefore the effort required to cut the paper is greater. Now, it doesn't really matter with a pair of scissors, but with a scythe mower where you've got lots and lots of blades. If you have a lot of friction between the blades, then it reduces the sort of efficiency of the machine. So what you're looking for is the blades as close together as possible without generating a lot of friction. So what I've done is I've just tightened up this screw here, so there is just a touch of friction between the blades. So when I close them, they slide over one another with just a minimal amount of friction. And that's ideally what you want. So, now cut the treat. Obviously the blades have to be sharp. I mean, it doesn't matter what you do with the clearance if the blades aren't very sharp. And with a scythe mower, it's best to get the blade sharpened by a specialist. They'll have a machine that gets everything absolutely spot on. If you just try to do it with a file, you're far more likely to do some damage to the blade, and it won't cut very well at all. So how do you adjust this clearance on the scythe mower? Well, let's go and have a look at it. You adjust the cutting plate with these pins here, of which there are 4. See it there. Well, this is what the manual says. Screw in the threaded pins by hand until you can feel resistance. So I'll just slacken off the lock nut and try that. Well, I've slackened off the lock nut, and then it says turn this by hand until you feel some resistance. There's absolutely no way you could turn that by hand. No way at all. Crikey. That's not brilliant. But there is another way of doing it, and I'll try that. I'll screw this in with an Allen key and then move the blades backwards and forwards by hand, and I'll just move it in a little bit each time until I feel the blades just biting together. And then I'll repeat it with all 4. So now I'll just tighten up the lock nuts and then just check again that the blades are running freely. Well, that seems alright. The blades are sharp. I wonder if they'll cut a piece of paper. Well, that's about spot on. Well, I've adjusted the belt, I've adjusted the blades. I've got a really rough piece of land out here which is full of absolute tussocks, tremendous things. So I'll I'll go and see if the machine handles it better than it did last time. This piece of land has these really dense tussocks, and the mower found them quite difficult to deal with, and had to just take the thick off and then knock them down with a powerful lawnmower, grind them down as it were. Let's see how it copes with them now we've done these adjustments. Well, that was absolutely amazing. Tremendous difference. Cope with them, absolutely no bother at all. Wonderful. Well, that's it. That's that bit cleaned up. I'll get on with the rest of it. This is what the machine was having difficulty coping with before the adjustments. Just thick, matted, as I said before, like coconut matting. But having tightened the belt and adjusted the cutters, it coped with them well today. I mean, some of them were a bit difficult, but much better than I thought it was going to do. There's one or two just need a little bit more cutting, and that'll be the job done. So there we are. It's taken less than an hour to cut this. and it was rough, really rough. Well, having had the machine for what, over 2 weeks now, and put it through its paces, what do I make of this Halco 875 111 scythe mower? Well, for the price, I've been really impressed with it. First thing to say, of course, is it's for domestic use only. It's not a professional scythe mower. If you're looking for a professional scythe mower, you're going to have to pay a substantial lump more. I noticed that whilst it talks about German engineering, and it's made by a sort of German-Austrian company, the machine itself is actually manufactured in Italy. The engine is American Briggs & Stratton 650E. It's a 190cc, providing 6.25 foot-pounds of torque, which is more than enough power for the difficult task I gave it. But like the Honda GC series of engines, the cylinder is unlined aluminium. I mean, that's more than adequate for a domestic machine, but for a professional machine, you know, professional operators, they might want to look at a machine with a cast iron lining to the cylinder, such as you get in the Honda GX series. But again, you have to pay a sizable lump more to get a machine with such an engine. It's got a belt clutch, which is fine, worked well for what I wanted and for a domestic machine. But again, for heavier duties, you might look at a machine with a dry plate clutch, such as you get in a motor car. It's got a automatic choke, so and starting was never a problem. It started within a couple of pulls every time. But when I put it away, so that I don't get any carburettor problems, which I've had with chainsaws in the past, I'll run it until it's dry. The safety features on the handlebars work well, so that you can never get in front of the machine when the cutter's running, which is a sort of welcome safety feature. The old Allens didn't have that. Adjusting the cutter bar height again was quite easy. A couple of bolts and that was it. But when I was trying to cut really tough stuff, I had to occasionally lift the cutter bar by leaning on the handlebars, which again are adjustable for height. It's only got one speed, and there's no reverse on it at all. I mean, I didn't find it a problem, but it's not exactly a lightweight machine. It's not like a lawnmower. There are more expensive machines. I mean, some machines have 3 forward and 3 reverse gears, although why you would want 3 reverse gears, I haven't the faintest idea. The manual recommends that the cutter bar is greased every 8 hours, but my experience was that it should be greased more frequently than that, especially if you're cutting really heavy stuff like I was. And when you finish the job, obviously you take the cutter bar off and clean it out. That was very easy to do. No problems at all with that. So for the past 2 weeks, I've really put this machine through its paces. I've demanded an awful lot of it. And the only disappointment was the two bolts attaching the reciprocating mechanism to the cutter bar came loose, and one of them was, I lost it. So when you're using the machine, obviously it would pay to just check that these things aren't coming loose. I asked the machine supplier to provide me with a couple of bolts for it, and I'm still waiting 10 days later. But they're easy to get from the internet. They're just, I ordered a stainless steel socket head Allen key bolts, 14mm long and with an M8 thread. A packet of 5 cost less than £2 and they were delivered within 2 days. So that wasn't a problem either. I think the mower will handle most of the jobs a serious amateur asks of it, but don't expect miracles. It's great at cutting long grass and brambles and sort of thin shrubbery, but dense matted tussocks it found quite difficult. It's a bit like trying to cut through coconut matting. Once I'd adjusted the tension in the belt that drives the cutter bar and fine-tuned the cutting play on the blades, I mean, the improvement in performance was quite dramatic, and the tussocks became less of a problem. Although there was still some that I ended up having to sort of grind down with a powerful lawnmower on a high setting, but there weren't many of them. Anyway, if you've got absolutely untamed wilderness, your best bet is to hire a professional machine. It's about 70 quid a day. Obviously, if there's a professional attached to it, it comes a lot more expensive. And then once you've got it sorted, then you can keep it under control with the Alcoite 75111 machine. So overall, I think the machine was very good value for money, and I'm really pleased with it.